Welcome to the Assist Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and today it is one of my favorite times of years, of course. It's not the fall, so it's not my favorite time of year, but you know, soccer's going on along, as is the Champions League, all that stuff. And what we are talking about today, though, is the NCAA Tournament. And I mean, this woman gets more excited about March Madness than anybody I've really seen. It is Laura Green joining me to break down everything with the brackets. I've already had Laura. I don't know about you, but I've already had 3 people reach out to me for help on their brackets. It was only Tuesday morning, and this is going to clear up everything. I'm going to give my bracket answers, which people are then going to use against me, and the Own Assist Challenge, which is on my Twitter page and such if you want to join and play. I will say I'm the defending champion. There's no NCAA tournament last year. I think 15 people joined to try to beat me at my own thing in the podcast, and I picked Virginia to win the national title, and they did. So yes. I am the defending champion. I will say no pressure if you are joining that challenge, though. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I joined it, so I probably will beat you.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So some cockiness coming on the other end of the call, I see. Okay.
More just like, I think this is a good year. I mean, the selection committee did well. So.
Yeah, we got some good mid-major teams in there, right? Which works out really well, which is nice. You know, teams like Drake, Wichita State don't normally make it. And, I mean, Duke and Kentucky aren't in the bracket. So, I mean, that's incredible if you really think about it.
What a concept.
What a concept.
I mean, Duke kind of took themselves out, so.
Right, yeah, very true. Yeah, with COVID cases, obviously, which is something we're going to discuss in regards to Virginia and Kansas coming up later. In our first region, actually, which I believe the Tournament Challenge app does not do a great job on the iPad at giving me the brackets. I believe Gonzaga is in the West region. Is that correct?
Yes, they are.
Good. All right. I say that doesn't really matter. All of the games are being played in Indianapolis, but Gonzaga, the number 1 seed, undefeated, won, I believe, all of their games, but won by double digits this year. One of the most dominant teams that we've seen in college basketball in a long, long time. What? I mean, I don't know with anything specifically with them. I personally don't have them in my Final Four. I've been saying that for weeks.
I don't have them either.
I just don't. I want to see it. You know what I mean? I want to see Gonzaga actually go through and win a title. I know they've been to Final Fours before, so people don't come at me. How do you see, though, this region playing out? Maybe we'll start with some first-round picks, if there's any upsets. You know, everyone loves a 12-5 upset with, I know we have Creighton, who's come under some issues recently.
I don't have Creighton winning.
Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
So I have UCSB winning. I don't know. I think after what happened with the Creighton coach, I don't think that the players are really have their head in it, which they shouldn't, because, I mean, the fact that he wasn't fired was a huge thing for me. He should have been. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, and I just don't think they're very good. I mean, they got crushed by 30 to Georgetown in the Big East title game just last week, and Georgetown's in as a 12 seed as well, and I also have UC Santa Barbara winning their first round matchup. Some other common upset things that I've seen, you know, you have the 13-4 matchup, Ohio against Virginia, where Ohio coming through the MAC champion, of course, and then Virginia struggling with COVID cases. They had to pull out of their ACC semifinal against Georgia Tech. You have Wichita State and Drake, which will play each other in a play-in game before facing off against USC, which is the 6th seed in this region. And then there is also Kansas, who's had to pull out of the Big 12 tournament with COVID cases, facing off against 14 seed Eastern Washington. We've seen a couple 14-3s in recent years. Do any of those games appeal to you in terms of an upset? Do you have an upset in any of those 3 games? And if not, which one do you think is the most likely, though?
I do. I actually have Ohio beating Virginia, just based off their stats this year and their runs in the past. And they beat Michigan, I'm pretty sure it was either this year or last year. I just think that they have the talent and they have that underdog status. And I mean, I know they haven't played as many games as Virginia, but with Virginia having the COVID cases and just we don't really technically know who's healthy and who's not, I just think Virginia is going to struggle a little bit.
Okay, I got you. And I certainly could see that. I think Virginia has certainly too much talent. Tony Bennett is a great coach to pull them through there. So then you have the 13 versus 12 matchup, the good old one we always see once in a blue moon in the tournament. Okay, I see in the round of 32 there. That's
I just love the underdogs because I think that sometimes these big schools are overhyped in basketball. Like when they don't specifically play in basketball like leagues in a sense of big conferences. I mean, the Big Ten was really great this year with basketball, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith in either Creighton or Virginia, so I'm going with underdogs.
Yeah, this leaf blower outside really coming through also agrees, I think. Goodness gracious, give me a heart attack. Regardless, yes, the Big Ten was very good basketball, which we'll get into later. Somewhat Drake interests me. Drake started off the season 18-0. Obviously, they're in a first 4 game against Wichita State. They barely made it, so who knows? This could be rendered not even important by the time Friday rolls around after the first 4 games on Thursday night. But still, I mean, USC is a winnable matchup for them as well. So that's an intriguing one to me. So next thing I want to talk about your Sweet 16 picks for this. I don't want to go round game by game stuff like that because that can get messy. But I will highlight the top 4 seeds in this region are Gonzaga, Iowa, Kansas, and then Virginia. So. Do you have it chalk? All 4 make it, or what do you see as being different? Go ahead.
So I don't have Virginia making it, but I have Gonzaga, Kansas, and Iowa, and then I actually have Iowa beating Gonzaga. So.
Okay, we agree on the Iowa beating Gonzaga, so we both have Iowa in the Final Four. So there you
go. Yep.
So I think they're a pretty legit offensive team, I have to say. Luka Garza is a Wooden National Player of the Year candidate, and I could see it being the favorite. And watching Iowa, they're a really tough offensive team, and their defense has improved recently. I was tracking their defensive efficiency numbers. They finally squeaked into the top 50 of the defensive efficiency, which is a big metric for me, an indicator for a Final Four team. So I like Iowa. I just don't think Gonzaga. I mean, Gonzaga is the best team, but going based off of that, when does the best team win? It's very rare in March Madness. So that's my pick there.
If you think of
go ahead.
If you think about with Gonzaga, if we do like the based off the football, model of how they pick, Gonzaga would not even be number 1 because of strength of schedule. I know Gonzaga has played some harder teams this year. I just don't think they've had back-to-back hard teams like they're going to face in this, in this tournament. So I think that's what's going to really be their weakness is they have not played constantly good teams back-to-back. So I think Iowa can easily sweep Gonzaga. I think Iowa's used to that back-to-back. So.
Sure. And I know, too, obviously Iowa playing in the best conference in the country in the Big Ten. And, of course, people might point to Gonzaga beating Iowa early in the regular season because that did occur. They won by, I believe, 12 or 13. But that's where I point to the Iowa increasing defensive efficiency numbers because for the longest time, I was watching the past 3-4 weeks. I wasn't going to put Iowa in my Final Four even if they were a 2 seed, and we'll get to my belief in the defensive efficiency numbers later when we talk about Ohio State. Because spoiler, Ohio people, I don't have Ohio State in the Final Four. Despite a favorable break, I will say in their region. My Sweet 16 now, I have Gonzaga. I do have Virginia. Because despite Virginia's COVID cases, the way I have it matched up right now, if they beat Ohio, then they're going to get UC Santa Barbara. Usually when the 12 wins over the 5, based on my research, they don't beat the 4 seed. Sometimes they do, but I think Virginia's too talented, but I could see them then getting blown out by like 20 or 30 to Gonzaga. In the Sweet 16 other side, Kansas does not get that benefit. I think USC will beat Drake or Wichita State, whichever comes out. And then maybe Kansas's COVID cases catch up with them. They'll drop the game to USC, and then Iowa will clean slate with USC there to end up with the top 2 seeds in this region in the Elite 8. So that's kind of my breakdown of the West region with the not West team of Iowa coming out of it. So, I mean... The Big Ten could really have a lot of go here a lot of teams in the Final Four with the fact of Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Illinois all being on the top 2 seed lines, which is kind of crazy if you really think about it. So, speaking of Michigan,
yes,
transitioning to the East region. See that right there? Right there. That's
Yes.
that's podcast experience right there.
Okay.
So my first disclaimer is that whenever I play these things, if Michigan is higher than a 3 seed, I pick them to win the title. So that's already a spoiler later on. But I'll get into talking about it. I have great reasons. I mean, I've watched a lot of this Michigan team. I really do think I've texted multiple times. I actually FaceTimed my brother one night. I was like, Max, this could be the year. This could be the year. And despite an important injury, which we'll discuss later, I still think this is the year. So they're coming out I have them coming out of this region. This is an interesting region, I'd say. We have Georgetown, as I mentioned before, who just is on a hot streak, winning the big
fan.
Yeah, Big East tournament there against Colorado, the 5 seed. Florida State, UNC Greensboro, Michigan State, and UCLA are matched up in this region as the first 4 opponents in the 11 seed against BYU, the winner of that. And then Alabama coming up to... I just can't believe I'm trying to find the words for them dominating college football and now being a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament. But they're there. They're there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Connecticut, dangerous as a 7 seed, as always, of course, when they won with Shabazz Napier many years ago. How do you see this first round playing out in this region?
I think this is one of the most competitive regions, honestly. You have some really good teams, especially, I think give props to the SEC this year. Their basketball, they became basketball schools this season. I will say, as a person who is not a fan of Alabama, will never pick Alabama. I think Alabama has a lot of talent this year. I think they finally, worked well with the coaching they brought in. I just think Alabama's on a hot streak, so I think they could go pretty far. I have Georgetown winning. I think they're on a hot streak. And I think them having Patrick Ewing as a coach is pretty cool. And I think that helps because you have a player as a coach. And I actually have UNC Greensboro beating Florida State. So I can elaborate more on that one if you want.
Yes, I do think you need to. I mean, I know your sister went to Florida State, so I'm sure she is making you mad or something right now. And that's what that pick's for, right?
No, not at all, actually. I mean, Florida State lost to UCF early on in the season. And as anyone can tell, UCF is not in March Madness. So I just think that Florida State has a lot of consistency problems. I think they're very up and down. Them losing the championship, the ACC championship, sorry, not American Conference, but Atlantic Coast Conference. I think that really just shows they have a lot of weakness, and UNC Greensboro has Isaiah Miller. And I don't know. I think they're going to pull an upset. I think a lot of people do. I just don't think that Florida State has the consistency to go all the way.
I mean, it makes sense. I have them losing in the second round, so I'm not pushing too hard for the Florida State bandwagon either. But I just don't think Greensboro has the firepower, despite Isaiah Miller, to make that upset. The one upset I do have, though, is the Michigan State UCLA winner beating BYU. Now,
oh, really?
Yep. So going back on my research of the past decade at brackets, it's very odd because you think, okay, the first 4 team barely made it in. However, usually one of the first 4 teams wins a game or two, and obviously half of the first 4 teams are 16 seats. So UMBC notwithstanding, I mean, the 16 seeds just don't beat 1 seed, so it's not smart to bet on in your bracket. However, the 11 seeds usually do pretty well, and obviously, as I've already articulated, I don't have Drake or Wichita State winning in their game against USC. So, by law of nature, Michigan State or UCLA has to beat BYU, and that is what I see occurring. And then Texas has a nice road into the Sweet 16, in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually have BYU, and then I have them over Texas too. I don't know, based off their stats and just what I've been reading about them, I don't know, I'm going with BYU.
I feel like BYU's riding the coattails of finishing second behind Gonzaga in the WCC. I know, a 6 seed seems really high to me, especially when you compare to some teams like San Diego State and such like that. But that is just my opinion there. I will say about Texas, what I've been reading a lot is you got to watch out for Albie and Christian. apparently, it might be a right 14-3 upset matchup. I have a 14-3 later on in my bracket, actually. In the next region we'll discuss, because I messed up that region pretty hard in my bracket, in my opinion. One of those regions always gets messed up. It's going to be the South or Midwest. That is my bet. Regardless, I've seen a lot of picks of LSU over Michigan. I don't know how you feel about that in the second round, possibly.
I mean, I think Michigan. I have Michigan going really far, just as a statement. But I don't know. I just don't think LSU really has. I mean, I'm betting more on Alabama if we really think about it within the SEC of this region. I don't know. I just am not. I've watched LSU play a couple of times. They beat Tennessee, which, doesn't take a lot. So I don't know. I'm just not a fan.
Understood. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I know they went pretty far in the SEC tournament and actually won. Or no, did they? No, they did not win.
No.
Alabama beat them in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, they lost to Alabama. Yeah,
only a point though. So, but still, not the result you want there in that tournament when they were trying to increase their seed. So let's work forward from the Sweet 16 to Elite 8. So who would you have in your Sweet 16 coming up out of this region?
So I have Michigan, UNC Greensboro, BYU, and Alabama.
So you've UNC Greensboro all the way past Colorado as well.
Yeah, I mean, because I have Georgetown winning over Colorado.
Oh, you have Georgetown winning, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so I think they could easily beat Georgetown.
I feel like Colorado's sneaky. I mean, they lost the Pac-12 final.
Yeah.
I'm saying this because I have them in my Sweet 16, so I'll reveal the rest of it in a second. They lost the Pac-12 final, sure, by a point to Oregon State. Oregon State was obviously trying to get into the tournament desperately, so I'm willing to throw that game out. And I mean, they're on the 5 line, sure, but they're 17th overall in KenPom efficiency, and I think they could make some damage. I mean, if it wasn't paired with Michigan, I could have seen them pushing through because their defense is also in the top 30 in the country to continue pushing through into the deeper reaches of the tournament. But like I said, my rule is I have to pick Michigan to win the title. Therefore, they will lose to Michigan in the Sweet 16. My other two, I have Texas and Alabama as well. But like you said, you have BYU over Texas. So you're not a big fan of the Longhorns this year, is what I'm hearing.
No, I watched them. I watched them play Texas Tech this year, and I don't know, and I just wasn't impressed. I mean, Texas Tech, we'll get to that in a few minutes, but they're a 6th seed, and that game was just a struggle. I mean, it wasn't a lot of basketball playing, a lot of more throwing arms and fouling. And I don't know, I just wasn't impressed with their basketball game.
Interesting. Yeah, I know I was not watching that game. I know I was elsewhere. So I just feel like Texas, I was watching the Texas-West Virginia game, and they West Virginia blew so many chances to pull out that game. It was a couple weeks ago in the regular season. So, and Texas obviously coming off and winning the Big 12 tournament. So I think they'll continue their path into the Elite Eight, actually, because I understand Alabama's Nate Oates, great coach from Buffalo, who took Buffalo on a couple runs in the NCAA tournament. But I just think it's my Gonzaga theory. Like, I want to see it. I want to see you go back to back. It's almost like, and it's tough. It's a tough theory for me to have, because you apply it to Villanova, right? However many years ago, before they won the 2 national titles with Jay Wright, you say, well, I want to see Villanova do it, and they don't do it until they do. So, I mean, and this is Alabama's probably first deep NCAA tournament run in a long, long time. So, they'll do that, but like, for instance, it's my rule with Gonzaga as well. So I have Michigan beating Texas to come out of this region.
I have Michigan beating UNC Greensboro. I'm a big fan of the underdogs, if you haven't noticed. I just think that those smaller schools in the middle of nowhere have the talent that isn't really noticed by these elite schools. So and they also have a fire under their butts to win. So I have faith in them. But I have Michigan beating UNC Greensboro. And then I have Alabama beating BYU, because as much as it pains me to say, Alabama's team is amazing this year, and they're no longer just a football school, in my opinion.
Right. Yep. I agree, certainly. And then who's your Final Four pick out of this region?
Michigan.
Michigan. Okay.
I've watched Michigan play quite a bit this year. I've watched a lot of Big Ten basketball this year, and they're just impressive. Their freshman, his name is slipping, but the freshman who's extremely good. I just think that, especially for how young he is, it's just really impressive.
Oh, that's my boy Dickinson, the center. Big man in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you having Michigan in the Final Four means I don't have to justify them winning the title yet. So we'll get there. I guess we'll get there when we go through the Final Four later on.
Yes,
here.
I don't have them winning the title, but I have them going pretty far.
Well, I mean, some people have to be wrong in this game, and that's okay. The next region is the South, led by Baylor, who was undefeated for most of the season until a couple losses they're picking up at the end of the Big 12 season. I feel like this section of the bracket works out well for them. Villanova lost the 5 seed, lost one of their best players in Gillespie to a season-ending injury. Purdue's been sneaky in the Big Ten, I will say, and almost came back against Ohio State in the Big Ten semifinal, but did not win. We've already talked a little bit about Texas Tech. 3 seed Arkansas went a long rung there, but then we're going to talk about, maybe did they peak at the wrong time. And then 2 seed Ohio State, which I've mentioned, I am not too high on due to their defense, but I guess I have them going pretty far. So who knows what I'm saying. How do you see the first round of this shaking out?
So I have Baylor, UNC, Winthrop, North Texas, Texas Tech, Arkansas, Virginia Tech, and Ohio State.
Okay, I see. So you have double 12-13 matchups at some point in your bracket. That's bold. That's okay. I see.
Like I said, I just think when some of these teams go to play these lower level, smaller seed schools, something magical just happens, and these lower seed schools just show up.
I am all over Winthrop over Villanova. Winthrop only has 1 loss on the season. Mm-hmm. And, of course, there hasn't been too many of the non-conference games, but Winthrop looks to me like the best 12 seed. And then you pair that with Villanova losing Gillespie, losing one of their best players, maybe this not being a peak Villanova team, that they were doing really well earlier in the year. They've been struggling as of late. I think Winthrop, this is, a lot of people are going to be on this as the 12-5 matchup, but I'm still taking it. I think Winthrop is not an easy win, but I think this is that if I can give one upset pick of the whole bracket, it's Winthrop over Villanova. I'm the most confident in that one.
Oh, yeah. And, they have the most efficient offense and defense in the Big South. And I've been watching a lot of ESPN and reading a lot of different articles. And a lot of analysts are going for Winthrop. So I think this is a very common upset this year.
I think Purdue's more solid, though, just coming from that Big Ten. And people will be like, whoa, they haven't been flashy. They haven't been making headlines. I will say there are only 6 teams that have an offensive and defensive efficiency in the top 25. Those schools are Gonzaga, Michigan, Illinois, Houston. Okay, that's all fine. Mm-hmm. Purdue, and then Connecticut barely ekes in there as well. But Purdue is up there with the 5th there, 23rd in both offensive and defensive efficiency, and 13th overall. So possibly have the efficiency of basically a borderline 3 seed. So I think maybe people are sleeping on Purdue. They could be seeing them as maybe a really weak 4 seed here in the Baylor region. I disagree. I think I have them in the Sweet 16 and then following the Baylor. So that is my Purdue little segment there.
I have North Texas beating Purdue. I actually think the opposite. I think it's an easy upset, honestly. I haven't really been impressed with Purdue this year, and I don't know. I'm just based off the statistics I've been reading, I think North Texas has a really good chance.
I just put Purdue in a category with Houston, Illinois, Michigan, Gonzaga, and you're like, eh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have the names of the players or the stats, but I grew up watching basketball religiously, and I don't know. Watching them was boring, and that's a really bad thing to say, but it just wasn't impressive. I didn't see anything that really stuck out to me. So I think with them having some weeks off, I think North Texas could easily win.
Sure. And I will actually say to corroborate you, Giant Killers, a commenting on ESPN that's behind the paywall, unfortunately, forecast that North Texas probably is like a 30-ish, I believe I saw, % chance being Purdue. So I'm making it sound ridiculous. It's not. I'm being real to you.
The Ringer also has them upsetting them. For the reference
that's not important. No. I love the Ringer. I'm a big fan of the Ringer. How dare you pull out against me? Okay, I have two other big upsets. I told you I would eventually have a double-digit seed matchup in the round of 32. Here it is. Utah State's going to beat Texas Tech. And
really,
Colgate from the Patriot League is going to beat Arkansas.
I know there's been a lot of hype of Colgate. Toothpaste, amazing, big fan.
Not affiliated.
Not affiliated. I just, I don't know. Arkansas did really good. Like I said, the SEC this year was really solid. I can see it though. I'm not doubting either one. I love a good upset. So if Texas Tech, loses, wouldn't be upset. And if Arkansas loses, wouldn't be upset. I do have Arkansas moving past Texas Tech. So I don't know, to the Sweet 16. So.
Yeah, I just think Colgate matches up very well with Arkansas based on what I've been reading, based on their play styles type thing like that. Colgate's a very efficiently shooting team. They've also only lost one game, so they know how to win. Granted, they played a lesser schedule and played a lot of repeats within their conference due to the Northeastern restrictions with COVID. However, I think they match up well, and there's always the one, because people are very popular with the 11/6, the 12/5. And look, people, this is a math game, right? You're not usually going to win your bracket in the first round, okay? You got to pick the champion, right? You got to pick the Final Four, right? But the main key people miss, and I know I said I'm all over Winthrop, and a lot of people are, and that's fine, like, right? It's a common pick. However, you have to be bold, because the thing is, if you're going to win in your 20-person bracket pool, you got to pick some things different than other people. It's like it was 2 years ago. Like I think in the assist challenge, 10 people picked Duke to win the title, and there were only 5 people that picked anything different. Like I said, I picked Virginia. A couple other people picked. I can't remember if North Carolina was good that year, but I think Michigan State was good. But the thing is, like, someone picked Tennessee. I remember. So it's like, if you're gonna actually win your bracket pool, you have to pick some things different. Now you might lose the bracket pool, of course, but you only have a 1 in 20 chance of winning anyway. Therefore, Colgate's going to beat Arkansas because I said so. But like, and then it's that type of 14/3 thing, or like you had earlier, the 12/5 of Georgetown. Like, does it really make sense? Yeah. Probably not. And we're gonna get there because I have a bold Final Four pick coming up.
Oh goodness! Goodness!
But I can back up, and I mean I just get people turning the same thing all the time. They're like, no, you have to branch out. You have to be a little bit different, in my opinion. That's Zach Schwartz's math lesson for the day. After taking one statistics class in college.
I was bold in the West and the East. I felt pretty confident about my upsets in the South, though like the few I picked. But I don't know. I feel more confident about my West and East upsets than I do in the South. So
my Midwest region is a disaster. So that's coming.
Yeah.
That's coming. No, it's a disaster in a good way. Like it's going to wreck people.
I also do have Virginia Tech beating Florida, which is kind of an upset if you think about it. So
I have that too. I was watching that Florida-Tennessee game, and I just did not like Florida's vibes. I know it's not the best analyst, but like it's analysis. It's there.
No, that's what I was going to compare it to. I watched Florida truly struggle, and as much as it pains me to say, Tennessee was very, very good at the beginning of the season, and they just slowly choking themselves throughout the season as they went. Florida just hasn't been in my radar, and I don't think they're very good this year.
Yeah, Tennessee was in the top 10 for a while this year, so it's an interesting thing of when you peak and when you don't. Okay, so my Sweet 16, I have Baylor, Purdue, Utah State beating Colgate. Sorry, Colgate. Wait, I didn't justify the Utah State pick. I don't think Texas Tech is very good, and Utah State's
I agree with that.
Utah State's been along the bubble for a while, but been a really solid team in the MWC over there. You know, they've had a lot of competitive games against tournament caliber teams, and it became a bubble fest between Utah State, Colorado State, and Boise State. So they've played against tournament level teams. It's not like, you know, we're talking with some other schools, you know, where I'm saying, they haven't played that many tournament caliber teams, that type of thing, and they get lucky with an upset. No, Utah State has played a lot of tournament caliber teams, And I think that is going to be a big reason why they go ahead and take this. And of course, San Diego State, who is a 6th seed coming up in the Midwest, who, spoiler alert, I have winning some games, ended up winning that conference, and they're a very good team. San Diego State is. So I think the people may be sleeping on the MWC and just thinking it's a classic group of 5 type conference when they could have easily had 4 teams in this year's NCAA tournament.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think Utah State has a chance. That was one pick that I was kind of went back and forth with, and still do not fully believe in Texas Tech. But we'll see. That's gonna be a good game, no matter what. That's gonna be a fantastic game.
Agreed. I believe it's one of the first games of the day on Friday. I could be wrong.
Not sure. I have the dates. I don't have the times yet.
Yeah, neither do I. I haven't overlooked too much, but I'm just really excited for it. So, going back to my Sweet 16 for the South region, I have Baylor, Purdue, Utah State, Ohio State. And for all my upsets, I have the most chalk thing ever, and Baylor's going to beat Ohio State to make the Final Four. I just think Baylor is a really well put together team. Their defensive efficiency has dropped recently, but they're still 4th in total efficiency. And Ohio State's defensive efficiency is 79th. And this is, I think, corroborated by the fact, that they're a hot and cold team. So when Ohio State played Michigan, not in the Big Ten tournament, but a couple weeks ago, I remember that Michigan was gashing them for the 3-point line in the first half, and then completely flipped, and Dickinson, our big center, dominated them in the second half. And to me, if you can't defend either one of those really well, against a top-level opponent like a Baylor, once again, Ohio State making the Elite Eight, that's great. I'm not disrespecting the making the Elite Eight. It's a great goal. But I'm just saying in terms of a Final Four pick, if you can't defend either of those, an efficient team like Baylor will cut you up. And Ohio State also, I will say, blew a 20-point lead to Purdue in the Big Ten semifinals, and they came out to win and eventually lost to Illinois in the final. But still, I'm not too big of a believer in Ohio State.
I actually have the same pick as you. I have Baylor beating Ohio State. So I agree completely. I think Baylor's good. Now we'll get to whether I think they're going to go on to the championship. That's another question, another time. But yeah, Baylor upsetting Ohio State.
There we go. So are you ready to move? I mean, we already talked about this pre-show, this disaster in the Midwest region. Frankly, it's the tournament people's fault. It's the committee's fault. I'll explain why. So
this was a hard one, to be honest with you.
It is, because there's a lot of non-traditional good teams in this one.
And I love that.
Which threw off my calculus looking back at past tournaments and research with how well these teams do. The 1 seed is Illinois. The 2 seed is Houston, coming from our beloved AAC. 3 seed is West Virginia. 4 seed Oklahoma State with prospective number 1 draft pick, Cade Cunningham, who I'm looking at to have on my Detroit Pistons very happily, as the Pistons are the second best team in the NBA. That's another discussion for another day. So I don't really have, I don't have any. Well, I have Rutgers over Clemson, just so Rutgers fans can have a good moment of life. But everything else I have chalk in the first round for this one.
I have San Diego State beating Syracuse. I have Oklahoma State beating Liberty. I know this is controversial, but I have Tennessee over Oregon State. A lot of people have, and a lot of ESPN analysts were saying Oregon State has a really good chance of upsetting Tennessee. I disagree with that one. I think Tennessee, with them being well rested, can actually get their act together and pull one through. Now, will they go further than that? Probably not, but I have Tennessee beating Oregon State. So
Oregon State wouldn't have made the tournament if they didn't win the Pac-12 title, right?
Correct. Yeah, but just a lot of people don't. I mean, reasonably, they don't have a lot of faith in Tennessee. But I think if they can pull from what they had at the beginning of the season, I think they could be a phenomenal team.
Right. Yeah. Obviously, they have the talent and 2 potential, top 5 or top 10 picks coming up next year. And a lot of times in the tournament, talent shines through, which is why I ended up this morning switching my Oklahoma State pick to make them have it be in the Sweet 16. Talent shines through, and so when you have players like Cade Cunningham and then those 2 Tennessee guys, it really makes a difference.
And I'm just a big fan of Rick Barnes. Big fan. Big fan.
True. Very true. Very true. Very good coach, formerly at Texas, now at Tennessee.
Yeah, he truly cares about his players, so they actually play for him. So what a concept.
Very true. So something I've seen in my I keep mentioning my analysis of past tournaments. It was probably like an hour, people. I didn't go through and do this all day. I do have things to do. Actually, a lot of things to do in school and such. Very frequently, more than I expected, 8 seeds beat 1 seeds. 9 seeds beat 1 seeds. Because you think it never happens. Then everyone goes, oh my god, my bracket's busted. So, and something else I see is that usually every tournament, there's at least one team seeded higher than 4 that makes the final 4. So 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever. That team this year will be Loyola Chicago.
Oh.
Now, we'll start with the Illinois case. Illinois has been on fire. They smashed Michigan, won the Big Ten title, tournament title.
Yes.
They did not win the regular season title. I know the Illinois fans are upset because they're a half game up on Michigan in the standings, but guess what? You pick win percentage. It's called math. Illini. That's how it works. So partially this is a karma pick because they just annoy me. No, and actually, I mean, you know this. With a lot of I've had to educate a lot of people in Florida about the Big Ten. Illinois is actually a school I don't get that annoyed with, unlike Penn State, Ohio State, etc. Even Wisconsin just rubs me the wrong way sometimes. But Illinois has been very faithful, very nice. Not anymore. So they're going to lose the second round. And granted, for serious basketball reasons, I mean, Illinois is a very good team. They're good on both ends of the floor, have a great center that actually really had issues with Dickinson. However, I think it's hard to maintain the level of play they've been at through another 3 weeks, and especially in isolation. And that's something that was talked about with the NBA and stuff like that. So this is going to be a weird tournament environment. And I just think there's always the one team that's going really, really strong towards the end of the season that flares out. The reverse could be true, I think, as well. But I just don't think, if they've been at this level for the last 3 weeks, I don't know if they can keep sustaining that for another 3 weeks. Now, flip side.
I'm going to defend Illinois hardcore.
Okay, but all right, do you want to do that now or do you want me to get to my Loyola Chicago point?
You can make it to your Loyola Chicago point.
Okay. Loyola Chicago is the best defense in the NCAA. The entire NCAA. Yeah. Number 1. Okay, first of all, defensive efficiency on KenPom. It's free. Look it up. It's very I would say look at KenPom for your brackets, people. It's very helpful. Loyola Chicago is an 8 seed, which you would think would mean they're not very good. However, they actually are the 9th most efficient team in the entire league. Or in the entire NCAA. The 8 teams in front of them are Gonzaga, Michigan, Illinois, Baylor, Iowa, Houston, Ohio State, and Alabama, which are all 1 or 2 seeds. So, did the committee mess up Loyola by putting them as an 8 seed? I mean, I would argue based on advanced metrics, yes, but I get it with
I agree.
With the resume aspect of it. They play in a weaker conference type thing, but Loyola Chicago doesn't care if they play in a weaker conference or not. And so to me, they have the advanced metrics of a 3 seed. So this isn't that ridiculous to me that they would actually go in and beat Illinois. I'm not saying they blow them out. It's not even that Illinois, I think it's a bad team. I just think, their play has to drop eventually, and I think Loyola is the right team to punish them if they do, in fact, meet in the second round.
So I'm a big fan of Loyola, always have been. I actually, when they did their, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, it might be 3 years ago, when they had their big run and they really became on the scene and they upset Virginia, correct? They upset Virginia?
They might have upset Virginia. I can't remember.
Or that was you at some small school in Maryland. I couldn't remember which one.
They were an 11 seed, regardless.
Yes, they were fantastic. I actually watched their game at an NBA game because I was bored, and Loyola was better than an NBA team. So I'm a big fan of Loyola. I think it was very hard between Illinois and Loyola, but I actually chose Illinois. I actually have Illinois winning it all. To go to your point of, them having some weeks off, they actually have one of I was reading quite a few articles about the team's bond. They are a very close team, and I think them being quarantined in the bubble together will actually help their game, because apparently between games they've played video games together, played card games. They're very close. So I think that also is why I picked them over Loyola, is because they have a bond on and off the court which makes it really easy to succeed on the court. And I know you're worried. You brought up the point about, them kind of running out of gas and all that other stuff. But the same thing could be said about Michigan. So I'm going to kind of flip the tables on you with that one.
Well, I mean, the bond point is well taken, but Michigan had their peak of the season when they returned back from COVID, and they've lost 3 of the past 6. So I wouldn't say those are the exact same things. I think the other team you could use that argument for is Gonzaga, that eventually they just run out of gas and they do it. But yeah, Michigan's, you would look at it, they've had their worst stretch of the season to date, and I think they'll bounce back from it. I mean, that's a topic for the Final Four. But I push back against your pushback.
Okay.
Because I think actually, Michigan got crushed by Illinois, which may not help my case that type of thing.
Yeah, it's not helping.
Lost to Ohio State type thing. They've had more uneven play recently than at any other point in the season, whereas Illinois, I think, is peaking, and at some point you have to peak as a team, and and then you shoot poorly and then you lose. And that's what I don't know. I mean, one of these 1 seeds is going to lose early, and based on I think Gonzaga is actually too good, so and they'll make the Elite Eight. And I mean early as in like Sweet 16, round of 32 type thing. I think Baylor's region sets up nicely for them, and I mean the other one you could point to is maybe Michigan, depending on it. But I mean I can't pick against Michigan, so there we go. So okay, there you go. So I mean, spending 5 minutes on Illinois Loyola there, but I mean it's a fascinating. No, it's I know it's bold, but like I'm getting out in front of it this year. I'm trying to pick the correct bracket busting. Like I said, think about it. If Loyola beats Illinois, I will win the bracket pool, most likely.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I want to root for Loyola, just because I've always been a fan of them. But I don't know, just something's really special about Illinois this year, and I just love watching them play. I just think they're amazing. So
yeah,
that's my take
alumni,
on it.
The students do still need to look up win percentage and how that works.
Oh my gosh.
Also, there's some kid that is about to graduate from North Ridgeville that I've met once or twice that's listening to this and is going to be like, oh, that's a good idea. I'll pick Loyal. Then actually gets the champion right and beats me in my own bracket pool. That's 100% going to happen now. Now that I said that. I should actually change my bracket completely now since I'm putting this out on public. That would make sense. Anyway, I kid people. These are my genuine picks. Okay, the rest of the region. I see. So we've kind of talked about this. I think I'm still going to ride with Cade Cunningham and Oklahoma State beating Tennessee.
I agree with that one.
I don't think West Virginia is a good team, really. Like, I don't. I think San Diego State has been rolling through. Like I said, I'm high on the Mountain West, so I think San Diego State rolls through them, gets to the Sweet 16, and then loses to Houston. Because I think people are going to be like, Houston, why are they here at a 2 seed? Houston's very good. Houston's a very good team.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
So I have Houston in the Elite Eight running through. So that's just kind of the bottom half of that bracket there.
I only disagree with you with San Diego State and West Virginia. I think San Diego State is, of course, like I mentioned before, is going to beat Syracuse. I actually have West Virginia beating them. I also would not be surprised if I'm wrong because I would like to see an upset. This one was another one I went back and forth with, but I have West Virginia losing to Houston. Houston's fantastic. I mean, they really could go far.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't confirmed this, but I feel like for a lot of people who just get their brackets and they're looking at a 1 seed or 2 seed to lose early, a lot of them are going to pick Houston. I think that's a mistake. I think Houston is a really rock solid team there.
Especially I think Rutgers is good. I have them over Clemson. I think that as much as they've struggled in the past couple years, they have really got their act together this year. But Houston they've always been strong. They've always been one of the hardest games that UCF played on their schedule. And I know people will be like, oh, the American's not that strong of a conference, but we have some really great basketball teams in the American Conference, I will say.
Sure. Houston, Wichita State. Memphis was on the bubble before going to the NIT.
Yeah.
And SMU, actually, I don't think even played enough games to make the NCAA tournament. So I 100% concur with you there. So, and then the San Diego State-West Virginia game, I just think it's a coin flip, and I'm just going to go with the upset there. So, So that means my Sweet 16 in this region is Loyola Chicago, Oklahoma State, San Diego State, and Houston. And I have Loyola beating Houston to make the Final Four. Because I just think Loyola, I mean, it looks weird because the seed name next to their name. But if you look at it, you look at KenPom, they're the 9th best team in the country. It's not that much of a stretch, people. Don't come at me in my Twitter DMs.
I mean, I might come at you, but
you already have.
I have I think Illinois is going to beat Loyola, and then they're going to beat Oklahoma State, and so yeah.
Okay, so when I initially went to make the bracket, I did not want to pick 2 1 seeds because usually only 1 or 2 1 seeds make it, and usually it's only 1. But I did pick 2, as you heard. I have Michigan and Baylor. Iowa's a 2 seed. And then Loyola Chicago is an 8 seed. So I believe we have the same matchup on the left side of our bracket. We have Iowa against Michigan.
Michigan, yep. We do. And then I have Baylor versus Illinois.
That's right. So you have 3 1 seeds in the 2 seed.
Yeah. Normally wouldn't do this.
Is it a little chalky to you? It sounds a little chalky to me.
I mean, I normally wouldn't do this, but I think the 1 seeds this year are something fantastic. And I think this just speaks to the Big Ten of how great of a conference they are with basketball. I don't feel like I should have to defend it. I was not, when I looked at it afterwards, after I finished filling it out, I was like, that's a lot of 1 seeds. But I don't know, they're 1 seeds for a reason. Now, if any of these teams get blown out, I could see it being Michigan, to be honest with you.
Okay. So now here's, no. And here's the Michigan talk, but saving it. People knew it was coming.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's not my fault Michigan sucks at football, and I've been clinging to basketball this year. But here it is. This team is legitimately deep. They, like I mentioned earlier, in the Ohio State game was really interesting to me, and just throughout the rest of watching their back half of their schedule and stuff like that, despite struggling, the team goes solidly 8 people deep. Juwan Howard's done a great job of recruiting. In fact, Michigan has 3 McDonald's All-Americans coming to the school next year, which is kind of crazy. That's not something that Michigan usually does. They've taken their licks. They've lost by 20 to a couple teams. So they've been able to bounce back and win games, stuff like that. And the big thing some people point to is that currently one of the best players, I'd say maybe their second best player on the wing, is Isaiah Livers, and he's having issues with a foot injury. However, it's not said if he'll be out for the entire tournament, but just getting his presence and his leadership around there in Indianapolis is going to be massive, I think, as being a senior. And I will also point to the fact that Michigan lost by a singular point to Ohio State, which is ranked as a 2 seed in this bracket already without him, in the first game or second game without him. So they can still hang with the best of the best with a top 8 team without Livers. So if they get him back, let's say against Alabama, for instance, because I know people are picking, a lot of experts I've seen are picking Alabama over Michigan, depending on Livers' health, I think that they can still hang with and do whatever they need to do against those type of players. And in terms of this specific matchup with Iowa, you mentioned him before.
Yeah.
Hunter Dickinson is fantastic. He's a freshman.
He is.
He's 7'1". He's just a big boy. And he is a boy because I think he's literally 18. He, for his age, I mean, he's had the vision as a center. The different passes he makes across court are incredible. He's great on the pick and roll with our guard who looks like he's 5'6", but is apparently 5'11", Mike Smith, a point guard grad transfer from Columbia, actually. The pick and roll with those two is incredible. And in the specific matchup against Iowa, I mean, we've already seen Hunter Dickinson shut down Luka Garza in look up that game and some game film. His defense on Dickinson was incredible. Michigan can play man. They can play 2-3 zone. I just think this team is so deep, even without Livers. If they can get through the round of 32 and Livers gets back to at least 75% with players like Shawnee Brown, Eli Brooks contributing from the outside, and Austin Davis off the bench. I mean, and, of course, how could I forget Franz Wagner, brother of Moritz Wagner from a couple years ago, for Michigan's last Final Four run. Got some DNA team. This team is just so many different scores that I think as long as they get through the round of 32 and Livers gets back to 65%, I think this, and that's what I'm betting on. I mean, if they don't have Livers against like Iowa and Baylor, they probably won't win those games. Just being honest, they need him on the court in some frame. So I am trusting in Michigan's team doctors, and that is why I have Michigan win the title. I think they have so many options. They just beat you inside, beat you outside, and their defense is incredible.
So I actually have Michigan beating Iowa. I know I said if there was any problem with this, it would be Michigan losing and earlier on, and that's because of Alabama. But I will say this, like you pointed out, if Livers comes back, I think that there's going to be no problem with Alabama. Even if he doesn't come back, I don't fully see a problem with Alabama too much. Now probably would be a very close game, but I think Michigan has a tiny chance to win it if they don't have Livers. But I don't know. I just think Alabama is, as much as I will praise them this year, the conference isn't as strong as the Big Ten. So Michigan is used to playing these high levels of schools that Alabama maybe not is used to. So that's kind of my reasoning behind it. And then I had them having Livers back and that's what I really have them beating Iowa. I think Iowa's really good this year. Big fan of them, but they're just missing something that Michigan has, and I think that's Hunter Dickinson. So,
yeah, and like I said, I've already talked about how great Luka Garza is, and he is incredible. I mean, he could win Wooden Player of the Year. However, Dickinson is also on that list, and I'm going to pull up the stats from the last game because it was the most inefficient. I mean, first of all, the last time Michigan and Iowa played, Michigan won by 22. And if my Wi-Fi would work, okay, there we go. College Wi-Fi people who are getting mad at me, I apologize. Luka Garza shot 6 for 19 in that game. 16 points on 19 shots, which, as people know, is extremely inefficient. And his primary defender during that game was indeed Hunter Dickinson. Ride Dickinson all the way. That's not a good saying. Oh, well. No. Anyway, on the other side...
Iowa's had quite a few injuries, too, and so that doesn't help them. But I have them beating Gonzaga, which I know is people are going to be like, that doesn't make any sense. But I just think the level of playing that the Big Ten is huge. It's another level.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with you there. I certainly agree. On the other side of the Final Four, I have Baylor. I have Baylor against Loyola Chicago. You have Baylor, Illinois. Yeah.
A lot of analysts have Baylor, Houston, actually. So that's something to think about, too.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly could see it. I'm all the way in on the Ramblers. I'm all the way in on Loyola Chicago at this point. That is where my bracket's being pushed in. But here, a lot of these teams will make the Final Four, that are like this Loyola themselves as the 11 seed. South Carolina the year before that as a 7. Syracuse the year before that is a 10. Michigan State is a 7. Kentucky is an 8. Other than Kentucky in 2014, who was the runner-up that year to Connecticut, all of those teams lose in the Final Four. Therefore, Loyola Chicago will lose in the Final Four to the superior team in Baylor.
Yeah. I mean, I have Baylor losing to Illinois. Kind of how you feel about Loyola is how I feel about Illinois. I don't know. Like I said, it's just something really special about their team bond that really makes me think that they have the chance to win it all. And I think they're also a lot of people have been talking about Gonzaga and Baylor heavily, and they've been kind of skipping over Illinois. And I was listening to another podcast, and a CBS analyst had Illinois winning it all too. So it's not just me. I think Baylor's good. I think that they have their competition in the South isn't that hard because I think they're going to roll over Ohio State pretty easily. I don't know. I'm not really bought into the whole Baylor hype.
I agree with you. I think if it were to be Illinois, I think Baylor would definitely lose. I completely agree with you. Even Houston, I could see Houston beating Baylor.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I'm not that sold on Baylor, but like I said, I just think the way their region works out, the 2 seed in Ohio State, I already talked about their defensive issues. The 3 seeds Arkansas, who went on a really good run in the middle of the year, but we see teams go on really good runs in the middle of the year all the time. I'm not sure how good they actually are. And then the 4 seed Purdue, who's kind of like sneaky maybe, but I don't know. And then Villanova, as we described, as the 5 seed, missing one of their best players. So no, I agree with you 100%. Baylor seems like they got a really solid run to go through there in the South region, but I agree. If it wasn't Loyola coming out of the Midwest, I think even like Oklahoma State could knock off Baylor, which in fact I believe they did. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to point out Oklahoma State already beat Baylor. It was 83-74, so it wasn't even a very close game, and it was in the Big 12 tournament semifinals. So, I mean, if Illinois beats Oklahoma State the way I have it in my bracket, the game between Illinois and Baylor, I feel like might not be the most exciting game.
Right. No, I agree 100%. So, and then I have Michigan over Baylor. So, I have
Illinois over Michigan,
which I could see. I mean, Illinois did just beat Michigan by 20 something. I will say Illinois is a very good team. I just think one of the top 4 or 5 favorites always goes down early, and it's going to be Illinois for me. That's just that's what I'm riding on, and you got to be bold. That's what I'm doing. But no, I mean Illinois is a great team. I could see them. I think they have a better shot than Gonzaga, for instance.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. As much as I was making fun of you earlier, I don't disrespect your pick.
Yeah. I mean, I have out of like the 1 seeds and everything. I mean, I think Gonzaga is going to go down easily. To kind of match your point of that. And like Baylor, like we just discussed, does not have a very hard Southern region. So I just think that really like if Illinois makes it to where they're in the Final Four, I think it's a steamroll to them winning. It's evident that they have the skills and the bond to win it all. And I think they're just a very like underdog team. I know they're a 1 seed, which doesn't make sense with the underdog team, but I think out of all the 1 seeds, they're the ones that don't get a lot of the respect that they deserve for how good they are.
Right. No, I 100% agree with that. So we're coming up on the hour mark. We've gone through the entire bracket. So if I had a fancy graphics team, which I don't, shocker to many people, it's just myself that runs this.
Wait, really?
Yeah. I would do a big thing here with give me your 5 takeaways. We posted the fancy graphic. So maybe run through your champion again, your Final Four teams, and a couple upsets you like throughout the regions, or which region you think is most ripe for that type of thing here as a quick close for people that skip to the end.
Okay, so I have Illinois winning it all. My Final Four is Iowa, Michigan, Illinois, and Baylor, which I know does have 1 seeds in it. Don't send me hate. My big upset is UNC Greensboro over Florida State, and then them beating Georgetown. And then let me see. And then I have Ohio beating Virginia. So my big upsets are in the West and the East. So those are my big upsets.
There we go. So I can see a lot of it. I see the argument for a lot of things. So my champion's Michigan. I have Baylor, Loyola, Chicago, Iowa, and Michigan, obviously, in the Final Four. My big upset I'm all over is Winthrop. Winthrop over Nova, take it.
Oh, yeah.
To my my 4th point to that would be the South region, in my opinion, is ripe for a lot of upsets there from the double-digit seeds. And then my 5th thing is just be different. Just pick something different. My thing was Loyola and Michigan winning. Just pick something different. Don't pick Gonzaga like half the people are going to. You're not going to win. Unless Gonzaga wins. So.
I forgot my my 5th point that I was supposed to make. Illinois is, if you look up their betting odds, it's like 750, I think, as of now. Plus 750. So I like to bet against a team that really has no chance in a sense, but is a 1 seed. Go for it.
Yeah, I'll say that's 15-2. I believe probably Gonzaga and Baylor are higher. I haven't looked at the odds like that. So, but yeah, there you go. That is the Assist 2021 Bracket Podcast. And I posted the link on my Twitter for the challenge if you want to join. If you have my phone number or Instagram, somebody just text me to join if you want. And yeah, you can compete against me and a bunch of my friends, and we're gonna have a bunch of people you hear on this podcast as well. I'm sure will be joining. Maybe I can get the most frequent guests on there as well to play against them and see how well you know your basketball. So, Laura, thank you for joining me, and happy March Madness. We made it.
Happy March Madness. Finally.